Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lori Gardner. I'm the Director of the Human Services Program at Northeastern University, and we're chatting with alumni to learn more about how COVID-19 has been impacting their work. Today, I'm chatting with Thalia Carroll-Cachimuel. She is the Communications Associate on the When We Fight, We Win team. As an Indigenous woman, her focus has been on Indigenous and Latinx human rights. Thalia previously worked as a Membership and Learning Services Coordinator at Philanthropy New York, where she worked with over 280 foundations. She graduated from Northeastern University in 2018, and during her time at Northeastern, she served as an executive board member on the Latinx Student Organization. She interned at the United Nations on the Committee for the Elimination of Racism, Afrophobia, and Colorism, and for the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for Hispanics. She was also the co-chair for the Latinx Caucus on the College Democrats of Massachusetts. She was awarded the La Comunidad Latina Elección Full Scholarship and was a Forbes 30 Under 30 scholar. She's currently based in New York. So Thalia, tell us a little bit more about your organization and your current role.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be talking with you today. Thank you for this opportunity. In 2016, my boss, Greg Jobin Leeds, wrote a book titled When We Fight, We Win. The book is co-authored with Agitarte, which is a Puerto Rican-based activist and artist organization. Together, they wrote When We Fight, We Win, and it is about 21st century social movements that have been successful. Since then, they have turned the book into this larger project, which I'm very happy to be a part of. And When We Fight, We Win does a lot of social justice and activist work in all different types of spaces. I am the communications associate for this team. I do a lot of the social media postings, the e-blasts. Recently, I've actually been starting to grow in my role, and I have been doing translations for the podcast series that my work is releasing. So I have been helping to take the Spanish that has been going on in the interviews and translating it into English. When We Fight, We Win works towards helping to highlight people of color and marginalized groups-led organizations. A lot of the work that my boss, Greg Jobin Leeds, does is working to uplift communities of color by highlighting them, spotlighting them, but also, very importantly, doing a lot of fundraising work for these organizations. Fundraising has recently been a huge part of my role, given the situation that we're in right now, but my boss, Greg, has a yearly goal of raising $100,000 for Agitarte, and that is something that's very important to him, and that's something that I'm working with him to support. The artists and the activists that are featured in the book are people that we are still currently in communication with and still currently working with. As I mentioned, we have a podcast series coming out where we're trying to bring the theme, the art, the activists of the book almost to life in a way, so that people can hear the stories of these frontline activists, the work that they're doing, how to support them, how to support their communities. And it's been a really great experience for me, learning and growing with this team. I definitely have two very different roles within my role. I work both with Greg, who is the funder for the When We Fight, We Win project, as well as for When We Fight, We Win as the brand. So with Greg, I work within his network of people to help get some fundraising in, as well as, like I mentioned, Greg works to highlight people of color, so he brings in organizations to his circle to help with fundraising. And then When We Fight, We Win, I'm in charge of all the social media, so one of the goals that I have is to highlight as many artists as I possibly can, using the platform to bring people in, users in, to see the kind of really incredible artwork that's being made, not only now during this crazy time, but also just in general, how much beautiful art that activists are making across the states.
Yeah, I love that. Great. Thank you. So tell us a little bit about specifically how your organization has been impacted, or the work that you're doing has been impacted by COVID-19.
So my team actually is 100% remote. So I would say internally, there hasn't been a lot of changes to the ways that we communicate with each other. But in terms of the communities and the organizations and the people that we work with, this is a very serious crisis where people are out of work. People are unable to provide for themselves and for their family. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that the privilege that comes with being able to even sit down and have internet on a computer and have a conversation. And I really think it opens up this dialogue about what this time means for certain people and what it doesn't mean for others. I know I've been having conversations with my family a lot about how lucky we feel to be in this place where, you know, we have food, we have shelter, we have computers and internet, kind of some of the things that we take for granted. And I think that this crisis itself has really pushed our team to be as on it as we possibly can be by helping people find freelance work, offering freelance work, you know, helping with Zoom technical support. It's troubles that a lot of organizations are having where, you know, people that are in a different age bracket that haven't necessarily been exposed to this sort of technology that we're now using as our only means of communication, offering support and being present for all types of people that need support in all types of arenas of their life, the work that they're doing, etc. We actually launched a live webcast series called When We Fight, We Win Live, where we are interviewing different people from various Massachusetts-based organizations and asking them how their communities and their organizations are coping with this crisis. On Wednesday, we interviewed Patricia Montes of Centro Presente, which is a Central American Latinx immigrant-based organization. And we were interviewing her about how undocumented and like Latin American communities in Boston are coping with the crisis, as well as what's really going on in the ICE detention centers. And the importance of this live podcast series is really to spread knowledge and information to others, just so that everyone is aware of what really is happening to some of the most marginalized and impacted communities during this time. Next Wednesday, we're interviewing the co-founders of Sisters Unchained, which is an organization that works with families that have incarcerated parents, and also talking about what this crisis is like for people that are in jails, people that are in prisons, and really thinking forward and offering a space for people to kind of think beyond where they might be in their own heads, because all of us are dealing with our own internal crises during this time, but also pushing people to think, you know, beyond the margins.
Yeah, absolutely. And so much of the kind of mainstream media at this point is covering really a pretty narrow scope of the reality that's happening right now. And so it's even that much more critical that the work that you're doing is getting those alternative voices kind of out there. And, you know, it's just not happening in any other space.
Yes, absolutely. And I really push this, this new era almost that we're in, which is this takeover of social media and using technology as our means of communication. You know, this is the only way that we can really communicate with the people that aren't physically in our homes with us during this time. And I think it's really important for us to use, you know, the presence that we have on social media to really bring to light and attention to some of these people that are really, really struggling during this time. And I know that my job, for one, is really pushing people in our communities and the people around us to really share about what's happening, because this is like very serious for people in ICE detention centers where, you know, there are kids and elderly people here that are being forced to be exposed to the virus, and as well as thinking beyond into prisons and, you know, really thinking about how this will impact what our society will look like after this. Because I think that, as you know, everything is so up in the air right now. We don't know when this is going to end, hopefully soon. But in a way, things may not go back to our usual normal. And we're going to have to accept that the things that happened during this time we're going to have to recover. We're going to have to take the time to really think about what happened during this time and how we can push forward and be the best society that we can. But in the meantime, like I said, I personally like to I want to use this time where I know everyone's on their phone. I know everyone's checking their email, because there's not a lot else we can really do to really push people to read different articles, or to donate $5, $10 to organizations that are really struggling during this time. Yes.
Great. So actually thinking about kind of when we resume some level of normalcy, what do you hope can happen in terms of shifts, whether that's shifts in policy, shifts in understanding, or better organizational practices?
Yes, I think that's a great question. I think immediately my mind goes towards money in a way, because if you think about how many businesses and organizations, nonprofit organizations, freelancers, how much money and they're losing during this time, my hope is that we can continue to support locally owned businesses. We can continue to hire our freelance writers, and I really hope that people understand how much money is being lost during this time towards people, and that we can work to support these organizations. I know for one, my father's self-employed, and his entire business from when this happened to when this is over is out. And that is one story of millions of people that are in the exact same position as my father. And my hope is that we can fundraise, we can uplift communities, we can share GoFundMes. And, we also have to think about undocumented people that are not eligible for unemployment, that are not eligible for that $1,200 check that's coming in the mail for those of us that are eligible for that. And, I read this article about, like, I can't pick strawberries over Zoom for, like, farm workers that are feeding us right now, that are putting themselves in positions where they're being exposed to the virus, and they are working every day because there isn't another choice. Right. So I hate to say my in the future, I hope that we can give money, but I really think it's important to think about how much of a loss these small places that might have been struggling before, for example, Centro Presente, that are now even facing even more hurdles and even more not boundaries, even more stepping stones right now. Another hope is that since we do have all this time, people can call their senators. We can use this time to really bring out those, I'll do that later kind of idea and notion. I know that there was calls going on last week for Baker to, release everyone from the ICE detention centers, really using this time to use social media and to use the platforms that we're on to see what's going on and to make as much possible change as we can, like writing letters to senators, calling senators, just really kind of pushing these ideas that we've had for so long. When people say they don't have time to do it, now we really do have that time. So I feel like this is a perfect opportunity for us to shine almost, and to really push our society to be better and to do better. We're in a very, very unique and scary time. And I think that we should just use this time to be the best that we can.
Yeah. And it's interesting, to your first kind of point, I've been thinking a lot about whether or not this can force us to maybe change some of those consumer behaviors. And
absolutely.
I've seen a lot of organizing that's happening right now in labor. And I think this is, we're putting a lot of the groups at risk. So folks who are stocking the shelves of the supermarkets, and the people who are doing the, kind of frequent engagement in supermarkets and doing the shopping for everybody else, are continuously going back into crowds and putting themselves, at an increased risk, where many of us have the ability to kind of be at home.
Right. And I think that really brings to a big point about, really pushing and thinking about privilege and how this plays out during this time. Like you said, people that are stocking our grocery stores, like they're exposing themselves every day. right? And like, I'm lucky I'm able to sit and do all my work every day, sitting down on my computer. And I acknowledge that. I acknowledge that every day, because I have friends calling me, I got laid off, I got furloughed, and it's just a crazy, crazy time. And I know it's hard, and I have moments all the time, but being optimistic, I feel like, is super important during this time. Taking care of yourself, like going for walks, I feel like have saved me during this time. But the one thing that I do really love about my job is that once this lockdown stuff started happening, in my head I was like, oh, I wonder if things are going to slow down. But if anything, things have just gotten so much crazier in the best way possible, because we're just doing work nonstop now. It's like, how can we support these people? What can we do here? Let's bring this organization to talk to on Zoom. Actually, on Monday, I had a Zoom call with a class at Boston University. So Greg offers to speak to college and high school classrooms, and all the donations that go towards his speaking fee, all of the speaking fees go directly to Agitarte. And Greg and I spoke at Brandeis University in October, and then we took a break because we had a lot of work going on. But then now we can do all these Zoom calls with classes. That's super easy. We've, an hour just talking to classes, very similar to the conversation that we're having now about the work that we're doing, but also how this crisis has impacted the work that we're doing. But, we're using the platform that we have to speak to 55 college students. We have no idea how much of an impact the things that we talk about are going to stick with them. And I really do think that the book is a great resource for colleges. We know we have the book in a lot of college campuses. But just, using the time that we have to really make as much change as we possibly can. So work has been crazy.
And link the book too to the bottom, so for folks who are interested.
Yes, absolutely. We have our live webcast series for 3 more weeks. Our official podcast season is being released on Wednesday, which is a huge project that we've been working on. It's been in the works for over a year, and we are interviewing activists that are on the front line, working in different communities. Our first podcast is with Reverend Sekou, who is an activist musician that's based out of Ferguson. I actually had the pleasure of working with him in Ferguson for Mike Brown's 1-year anniversary when I went down to Ferguson to do some work. And we talked to him about his life growing up, how to stand in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. And every episode we work with a different activist that's working within different communities. And now is the time to listen to those podcasts that we've been putting off, read those books we've been putting off. But in that sense, I think it's a unique time for jobs to really think about how they can work within this time, and, Zoom webinars and podcasts or articles. Like, now is the time to really get that stuff out there.
Yeah. Awesome. Thalia, thank you so much. It was so great to catch up with you.
Thank you.
And, I'm going to ask that folks give you some comments and feedback on the Facebook group and for Human Services. And please keep us posted on everything that you have going on, and keep the media coming.
Absolutely. If anyone actually has any direct questions for me, you can email me at Thalia@whenwefightwewin.com, and I'm happy to have a conversation.
Amazing. Thanks, Thalia. Have a great day.
You too.